Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're journeying into Montana, a state renowned for its sprawling, rugged beauty, its vast landscapes, and that iconic big sky. But what if we told you that beneath all that natural splendor, Montana also harbors some truly chilling, unseen histories? You've provided us with a stack of fascinating sources, and our mission today is to take a deep dive into Montana's most haunted places. We're here to uncover the surprising facts, the spine-tingling anecdotes, and maybe most importantly, the historical context that has woven these spectral tales into the very fabric of the state. Because Montana's rich, often tumultuous past marked by intense gold rushes, the harsh realities of frontier justice, and incredibly challenging living conditions has truly created this unique tapestry of paranormal activity. It's almost as if the land itself, remembers.
Absolutely. And that idea of memory, or maybe residual energy, is a really critical lens for understanding these stories we're going to talk about. And when we look at hauntings across Montana, they often fall into several, distinct categories. You'll hear about residual energy imprints, essentially echoes or recordings of past events.
Like replays.
Exactly. Replays, particularly those tied to traumatic or highly emotional moments, playing over and over. Then there are intelligent spirits, which seem aware of the living and can sometimes even interact.
Okay.
We also get reports of poltergeist activity, so physical stuff like moving objects or unexplained sounds, along with things like shadow figures, dramatic cold spots, disembodied voices. It's interesting, too, retired Montana librarian Karen Stevens, she observed that not everyone is necessarily sensitive enough to see ghosts.
Right.
But many people, including herself, report these undeniable physical sensations, like inexplicable cool breezes or those sudden intense drops in temperature. It's not always a full visual thing.
That's a great point, because those feelings, those sensations, they can be just as impactful, maybe even more unsettling sometimes. And for this deep dive, we've got an incredible range of locations to explore with you. We're talking notorious old prisons, the silent streets of boom and bust ghost towns, opulent grand mansions, historic hotels, and even a battle-scarred landscape where history really refuses to lie still.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's begin our exploration. Okay, to start, let's immerse ourselves in places where the most intense human dramas, justice, crime, confinement, seem to have left this indelible spiritual mark. Our first stop takes us deep into the old Montana State Prison in Deer Lodge. Okay, picture this. Built way back in 1871, this place housed some of Montana's most dangerous criminals.
Yeah.
And its history, well, it's steeped in violence, riots, even executions. That history has really cemented its reputation as one of the most consistently reported haunted sites in the state.
And just hearing about it, the old Montana State Prison, the stories, the riots, the hangings, the sheer despair, it really paints a vivid picture of suffering.
From your sources, the presence of figures like Jerome P. Weber, one of the last prisoners hanged there, and the report specifically from the gallows room, that really brings it home. When you talk about residual energy, is a place like this almost a perfect storm for it, given that concentration of trauma? Oh, absolutely. It's a crucible, right? A crucible of intense emotion. Think about the psychological pressure, the despair, the fear in such a confined space over decades.
Yeah.
That kind of energy doesn't just puff away.
Yeah.
And then you have figures like Frank Conley, a warden who ran the prison with an iron fist. He was accused of inhumane conditions, overcrowding, poor sanitation, harsh punishments.
And enriching himself, right, using prison labor.
Exactly. And the 1959 riot, where a guard was actually murdered, his spirit is said to still patrol the corridors. That just adds another layer of tragedy. What's kind of intriguing, though, is the contrast you also find. Like Paul Turkey Pete Eitner, he was a notorious prisoner, served 49 years.
Wow.
And he had this quirky story. He believed he sold the prison's entire turkey flock to the federal government for 25 cents a bird.
25 cents.
Yeah, and the staff apparently just played along. Even that sense of delusion, or maybe just the coping mechanisms, it speaks to the unique, often desperate human stories inside those walls. The air there just feels heavy, heavy with past lives.
It truly highlights how deeply the human experience, even in its most extreme forms, can anchor itself to a physical location. And that brings us, sort of naturally, to the Butte Silver Bow Courthouse.
Yeah.
Different function, obviously. But it also held immense emotional weight, didn't it?
Definitely.
Maybe less about long-term confinement, but certainly about those life-altering decisions.
Exactly. This imposing neoclassical courthouse, built in 1912, it was the center of county government for over a century. It processed cases involving fierce labor disputes, tragic mining accidents, violent crimes. Just imagine the daily dramas playing out. The hope, the despair, the life-altering verdicts handed down within those very walls, day after day.
Yeah.
And the hauntings reported here are quite specific, too. Apparently, there's a spectral judge, Charles Poindexter, who still sort of presides over courtroom number 2.
Really?
Yeah, security guards have reported hearing gavels pounding, papers rustling, even murmured legal deliberations in totally empty rooms late at night. The third-floor corridor is known for sudden cold spots and that really strong feeling of being watched. Sometimes people see an apparition of a disoriented prisoner from the early 1900s, someone who got a death sentence there.
That's chilling.
In the basement, once housed temporary holding cells. People report overwhelming feelings of sadness, anxiety, and they've captured unexplained orbs on security cameras down there.
This really makes you consider how the sheer intensity of human fate and justice, both the perceived triumphs and the profound despair, can leave such an indelible spiritual imprint on these historical structures. They're not just buildings, are they? They become canvases for the most powerful human emotions. It raises an important question about how the concentrated energy of judicial and penal systems might differ from, say, the more transient energy of a bustling town.
That's a really compelling distinction, that idea of concentrated versus transient energy. Okay, so from the echoes of justice, let's turn our attention to the haunting beauty of Montana's abandoned towns. Places where dreams of gold and prosperity often met really tragic ends. This feels like where the sheer force of past lives and dreams just refuses to
By
dissipate.
the ghost towns.
Right. We're heading to Bannock State Park first. This was Montana's first territorial capital, and it's a remarkably preserved ghost town that once absolutely bustled with gold prospectors. Founded in 1862 after a major gold strike. Over 60 original structures are still standing there today, pretty much untouched by time, but they're certainly not empty.
So who's said to be there?
Well, the most famous resident is probably Dorothy Dunn. She was a 16-year-old girl who tragically drowned in a nearby dredge pond back in 1916.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. She's reportedly seen in a blue dress, sometimes peeking from windows of the Hotel Mead, and some visitors even report feeling this cold hand grasp theirs.
Ooh, creepy.
Right. The Hotel Mead itself is a real hotspot for activity. Disembodied footsteps, doors opening and closing on their own, whispers. People even hear ghostly laughter and phantom piano music from the old saloon. And the old schoolhouse seems to have its own spectral students. Reports of children's laughter, the sound of chairs scraping on the floor, even gentle tugs on clothing.
Wow.
And then there's the gallows area, a very stark reminder of frontier justice. Visitors often report these overwhelming feelings of dread and sadness there. Some even claim to see shadowy figures swinging from the structure right around dusk.
What's truly insightful in places like Bannock and Garnet, which I know we'll get to, is how that rapid boom and bust cycle of the gold rush. You know, the sudden influx of desperate hope followed almost immediately by crushing failure that seemed to create this uniquely turbulent and really persistent residual energy.
Yeah.
It's not just the trauma of individual deaths, maybe, but the collective shattering of a shared dream that seems to etch itself into the landscape itself. Do you think the isolation of these places kind of amplifies that?
It certainly feels like it could. Like the silence makes those echoes even louder somehow. And speaking of isolation, further into the mountains, we find Garnet Ghost Town, another remote mining settlement, maybe even better preserved than Bannock. It sits high in the Garnet Mountain Range, over 6,000 feet up.
High up.
Yeah. This town boomed in the 1890s, only to be pretty much abandoned after the gold ran out and a devastating fire swept through in 1912.
So a similar story, boom and bust.
Exactly. And the specific phenomena reported here are really captivating, reflecting that life. At Kelly's Saloon, phantom piano music is often heard believed to be from a player who used to entertain the miners.
Huh.
The J.K. Wells Hotel echoes with children's laughter and the sounds of furniture moving around in vacant rooms upstairs.
Okay.
And winter, surprisingly, is when activity is said to be most intense. People report shadowy figures moving between the buildings in the snow, mysterious footprints appearing in fresh snow, with no trails leading to or from them.
No trail.
None. And the distinct smell of pipe tobacco often wafts from empty cabins, as if a miner just stepped outside for a moment.
It's as if the elements themselves, the isolation, the harsh conditions, that raw ambition of the gold rush, don't just amplify the residual energies, but specifically the unfulfilled potential of those lives.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
The hopes, the failures, all seem to have been just absorbed by the very landscape.
It raises an interesting question. Does the intensity of anticipation and then those dashed dreams leave a more complex spiritual signature than, say, a more straightforward tragedy?
That's a profound thought, the energy of unfulfilled dreams. Okay, so moving from those rugged ghost towns, let's step into the, well, opulent yet haunted halls of Montana's elegant estates. These are places where personal tragedies and family legacies seem to refuse to rest. Our first entry here is the Daly Mansion in Hamilton. This grand estate, built in the late 1800s, was home to Copper King Marcus Daly and his family.
Copper King. Big money, big house. Absolutely. But the Daly family endured immense sorrow here. Marcus and Margaret Daly tragically lost their 16-year-old daughter, Mary, to typhoid in 1888.
Oh, no.
And then their 12-year-old son, Marcus Jr., just 2 years later. These profound losses deeply affected the family, understandably.
Of course.
And the hauntings seemed tied to that. Margaret Daly is reportedly seen walking the halls, sometimes peeking from windows. She's described as a protective presence, maybe anchored there by her sorrow. Marcus Daly's ghost is said to loom in his former office and sometimes pace the grounds late at night. There are also sightings of ghostly children, their laughter and playful noises sometimes heard echoing through the grand rooms.
The children, too.
Yeah. And other phenomena include strange noises like creaking doors and the sound of someone playing the piano when absolutely no one is around. The room's empty.
It really illustrates how deep family bonds and, that profound personal sorrow can create such lasting attachments to a place. The scale of the wealth, the aspiration, and then those devastating personal losses. It's a really potent combination for a spiritual imprint, isn't it?
It really is.
It makes you wonder if the intensity of the love for these grand homes, tied so closely to personal identity, plays a role in these more intelligent-seeming hauntings.
That's a fascinating connection, the love for the home itself. And just across the state, in Butte, we find the Clark Chateau, another opulent symbol of the city's mining boom wealth.
Butte again.
Yep. This French-inspired mansion, built in 1898, was actually a wedding gift from William Andrews Clark to his son, Charles. It later became a museum and art center, but apparently the original residents decided to stick around.
Uh-oh. Who's there?
Well, your sources describe very specific hauntings. Catherine Clark, apparently a well-dressed woman, is often spotted descending the grand staircase or just gazing out from upper floor windows. Charles Clark, described as a distinguished gentleman, is sometimes seen in the library, maybe rearranging books or sitting in his favorite chair.
Like they're still living there.
Kind of. And the third floor, which used to be the servants' quarters, reports really intense activity, unexplained footsteps, doors opening and closing, dramatic temperature drops. The music room is known for phantom piano music again, and visitors describe children's laughter echoing in empty hallways. Lots of people report just feeling watched, and orbs and misty figures often show up in photos, sometimes gentle, unexplainable touches.
This brings up a really compelling question. Do the powerful and their families, with their strong personalities and significant life events, do they leave behind a more profound spiritual imprint on their grand homes?
It seems possible.
Is it their desire maybe to maintain their legacy, even in death, that anchors them so strongly to these magnificent structures, creating these intelligent, almost proprietary hauntings? It feels like a different kind of energy from the residual echoes of a boom and bust town, for sure.
A completely different energy, I agree. Okay, so from grand mansions, let's shift gears quite a bit, to a truly unique and perhaps unexpected historical landmark, the Dumas brothel in Butte.
Ah, yes. The Dumas.
This is a monument to Butte's notorious red light district. And what stands out from your sources isn't just its notoriety, but things like the hidden staircases, secret passageways. It really speaks to its clandestine history.
And its longevity.
Exactly. The longest-running brothel in U.S. history, operating for an astonishing 92 continuous years, from 1890 all the way to 1982.
That's incredible. And the history there is deeply tragic, too. Many women reportedly died from illness or violence within those walls. What are some of the most prominent spectral residents reported there?
The reports are intense. You've got Madame Eleanor Knott, whose apparition is apparently seen monitoring the hallways, still kind of overseeing her establishment.
Still on the job.
Seems like it. There's also Lillian, a prostitute who reportedly committed suicide in her room, room 19, after a tragic love affair. Visitors to her room often report intense emotional responses like deep sadness and electronic devices acting up, like her despair is still radiating.
Yeah.
And then there's Joseph Nadeau, the French-Canadian businessman who actually commissioned the brothel. He allegedly hanged himself in the basement due to financial troubles. His heavy footsteps and sudden dramatic temperature drops are frequently reported down there.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah, and paranormal evidence seems to abound disembodied voices like giggles or male grunts, objects moving moving on their own, doors opening and closing, old-time music playing from nowhere, and even invisible touches, especially in the really cramped cribs where the women worked.
And EVPs?
EVPs, thermal imaging. They've captured unexplained phenomena. It really makes you reflect on the raw human emotions, despair, love, tragedy, desperation that just permeate such a historic and complex place.
The Dumas brothel is such a powerful example of how intense, concentrated human experience, often marked by hardship and really complex emotional lives, can leave such a dense spiritual footprint. Now, shifting from that very intimate, tragic space, let's turn to a place of immense historical conflict and, well, widespread loss. The Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument.
Right. From the intense, almost claustrophobic energy of a brothel, we move to a place defined by huge historical conflict and loss. The Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument near Crow Agency. This site preserves the infamous Battle of the Little Bighorn, June 1876, Custer's last stand, where Lieutenant Colonel Custer and his 7th Cavalry were wiped out by Sioux and Cheyenne warriors.
A pivotal, violent moment.
Absolutely. The scale of the violence, the suddenness of it, the sheer number of lives lost on both sides in such a short time, it makes it a particularly charged location.
You'd expect energy there.
It's perhaps no surprise, then, that ghosts from both sides, soldiers and Native American warriors, are said to haunt the battlefield. There's a story about Ranger Steve Adelson, for example. He recounted following a man dressed in an 1876 U.S. cavalry uniform who left no trail in the dust and just vanished before his eyes after the park had closed.
Well, no trail.
Exactly. And at the Stone House, which was once the superintendent's residence, lights apparently turn on and off by themselves, footsteps are heard, doorknobs turn, apparitions are commonly seen. And out on the battlefield itself, visitors report sightings of bloodied soldiers, hearing war whoops, the distant sound of an army bugle. Some even believe Custer himself inspects the visitor center sometimes.
What's fascinating here is the sheer scale of the energy left behind by such a violent, pivotal historical event. This feels like a powerful example of residual haunting, where the intensity of the past, the trauma, the conflict seems to just replay and manifest itself. This is a very different kind of spiritual imprint than the individual sorrow of a mansion or the complex emotions of the brothel, isn't it? It's almost like a collective echo of a historical moment.
A collective echo, absolutely. And it's a really somber reminder of the indelible mark that significant human events can leave on a place. Now, let's consider a lighter, or perhaps deceptively comforting contrast. Even places designed for relaxation and hospitality can hold on to restless spirits.
Right, not always gloom and doom.
So how might these places meant for comfort and retreat, also possess a chilling side? Let's talk about the Boulder Hot Springs Hotel in Peace Valley.
Okay.
It's been a historic retreat for over a century, dates way back to the 1860s, famous for its mineral-rich waters. The current Mission Revival-style building dates to 1891. Sounds lovely, right?
Sounds relaxing.
Well, don't let the calm waters and historic charm completely fool you. One of the key hauntings involves Simone, supposedly a prostitute who was allegedly murdered in room 20. The tragedy again.
Yeah, she's reportedly seen in early 1900s attire, sometimes near the hot springs themselves. Some guests even feel a cold hand touch their shoulder while they're soaking.
Yikes. While relaxing.
Apparently. Her presence is also often accompanied by the distinct smell of perfume. The third floor reports footsteps and children's laughter, and room 20 itself experiences frequent light flickering, items moving, and that creepy feeling of someone sitting on the bed when no one's there. Even the indoor pool area has reported splashing sounds and wet footprints appearing when the pool is completely empty.
Wet footprints, okay.
Yeah. And guests have shared unsettling experiences, like a young daughter having conversations with an invisible friend who somehow knew historical details about the place, or finding furniture in their room mysteriously rearranged overnight.
That's a remarkable blend, isn't it? Personal tragedy within a place that's meant for healing and rejuvenation. It really underscores that spiritual attachments aren't exclusive to places of grand drama or historical weight. A violent, personal event can leave just as strong an imprint anywhere. Exactly, and it makes you wonder about the lingering energy of those individual lives, separate from the main purpose of the place. Then there's the Dude Rancher Lodge in Billings, a cozy, rustic inn built in 1949. Seems charming.
Okay.
But don't let its charm deceive you either. It's said that the spirit of Annabelle Duffner, one of the original owners who was known for being very hands-on, still haunts the lodge.
Still keeping an eye on things.
Seems like it. Guests report flickering lights, TVs turning on and off by themselves, and sometimes hearing her voice whispering in the halls. The kitchen is apparently a hot spot for paranormal activity, pots and pans moving, the smell of cooking food when it's completely empty.
Xanthan cooking.
Right. And room 226 is considered the most haunted. Guests there report cold drafts, mysterious shadows, and that classic sensation of someone sitting on the edge of the bed.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really suggests that strong personal attachments, whether it's to a business they built, a home they loved, or a place of great comfort, can anchor spirits just as powerfully as traumatic events.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not always about a violent end. Sometimes, it seems, it's simply about a deep connection to a place or a role played there that ties a spirit somehow to the living world. This raises an interesting question. Is there maybe a correlation between the clarity of a spirit's purpose or connection in life and the clarity or consistency of its presence in the afterlife?
That's a fascinating thought, the idea of purpose extending beyond life itself. And that brings us towards the end of our deep dive into Montana's most haunted places today. What an exploration it's been. Montana's haunted locales truly offer this unique and really compelling blend of history, personal tragedy, and unexplained phenomena.
Definitely.
It's clear how deeply the state's rugged, often tumultuous past is intertwined with its spectral present. From the weighty emotions of old prisons and courthouses, to the lingering dreams in abandoned boomtowns, the personal sorrows in grand mansions, the complex human stories of brothels, the sheer force of historical conflict on battlefields, right down to the comforting yet chilled spaces of hotels and hot springs, these places remind us that history isn't just in books.
No, it's not.
Sometimes it whispers in the air around us, just waiting to be heard. We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and perhaps even a shiver or two as you consider the hidden histories beneath the big sky. We invite you to maybe ponder which of these places resonates most with you, or perhaps sparks your curiosity to explore further, maybe read up on them yourself.
And this raises an important final question for you to ponder. If emotions and significant life events can leave such lasting imprints on a place, what subtle echoes might we be leaving behind as we navigate our own lives? Whether it's in Big Sky Country or anywhere else for that matter. Perhaps we are all, in our own way, adding to the layers of history that future generations might one day perceive.